I was dancing. It was Oliver Kolker behind me. And then in front of me, I think it was either Chicho or it was like Gaston and Moira or something in
You
front
were
of me.
stuck between. Oh Jesus!
He has long legs and a long stride, okay?
A lot of
And
endurance.
he's like, he was booking it up this mountain to go to these waterfalls.
There's actually only real one true marathon I've ever been to, meaning there was music playing 24 hours a day.
I love this dress. Where did you get this dress?
I stole it. My
Of
favorite
course you
way
did.
to acquire things.
Who did you steal it from?
My aunt. I love
Okay,
her so
that's-
much. I think this is from Senegal.
Really?
And I saw her in it and I was like, oh, I want this. And she was like, no, I love this. And then before the day was over, she had
Oh.
packed it and left it behind for me.
I love that. And you know, it looks like it's batiqued. Do you know what that is?
No.
So before they dye the fabric, it's white or light blue fabric, and they put wax and they make the pattern with wax, and then they dip it into the dye, and where the wax is, it doesn't absorb, and then they melt the wax off. It's like a really,
It's very nice.
it's a beautiful and very artisanal way to
There's a
make
very
fabric.
nice split situation.
It's gorgeous.
Just saying.
I love it.
And there's pockets, of course.
And of course, yes, you need some pockets. All right, well, today,
Speaking of clothes and what to have, and that's definitely an
yes.
important topic for today.
absolutely, this is like the best way to get your tango clothes, actually.
Yes.
Yeah, so today we're talking about festivals and marathons, what you need to know,
How to come prepared.
how to come prepared.
How to recover after.
Oh,
should talk about that.
yes, absolutely. And how to make the most of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
But before we dive in, I want to know about your first festival or marathon. What did you go to first?
My first festival. Back then, I don't think we
Yeah.
had marathons yet. Or if we did,
Not,
wasn't
it
till
wasn't
then.
really a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd been dancing for maybe about a year now.
Mm,
Or rather, it was, I think it was about a year.
yeah.
And my friend and I, Drew, at the time, we were both Tango babies together. Drew, he's amazing dancer right now.
Mhm.
And he and I both went to one of the Ann Arbor Tango festivals. Back then, Ann Arbor had all the best festivals.
Mm.
Even today, they still have one of the best marathons in the year. And I just remember feeling very excited about it. And we went with people that were from our tango club at the university, as well as we had like a local teacher from, I want to say, Chicago area. She also came with us. So it was like we came with a support group,
Mm.
right? We had the dancers who had more experience and they
Yeah.
were there to kind of help us through the experience. And then it ended quite tragically.
Oh,
Not tragically, just personally horribly.
oh no.
Went in there with all of the brightness and hopes and expectations, and left feeling like, I know nothing. I'm a horrible dancer. I need to start over again from scratch. It just wasn't vibing. I couldn't figure out my body. I felt heavy. I was so confused. I was only exposed to a very small tango club.
Mm-hmm.
And now I've got people doing all these different things.
Yeah.
I just couldn't keep up. I couldn't follow. It was horrible. And I didn't get a lot of dances after the first couple of tries, which I don't blame them. I mean, after they had already danced with me, they definitely weren't coming back again.
Yeah.
So it was great that it happened, because then that set a very high bar for me to then continue growing and trying to recover from that.
Yeah. And you came out of it like, okay, I got to learn.
I have a lot of
work to do. Yeah.
This is not something you can just jump in.
Yes.
You need to invest time and,
Yeah.
and effort.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you?
So my very first festival, I want to say, was Tango Porque No, which used to happen here in DC. I think Callie organized it, and I remember I did take classes. I took a full slate, but I think Porque No was like a little bit of a smaller festival. It wasn't a really, really big
Mhm.
one. Um, and I remember just like the first class I took, which maybe I'd been dancing for like 2 or 3 months. It was not a lot of time. Okay. And the very first class was actually on Molinetes, and they made us go on a square and pivot ourselves into a back ocho, and like
We
forward
just
ochos.
covered that in class.
Yes. And it was so difficult in that moment. I remember how hard it was. But I also felt like I was learning so much, and I was like, okay, I can take this home and I can learn. And then I have to say, like, the first festival was Tango Element.
Oh,
And
you're so advantaged to have that
oh
be
my
one of your
gosh, we
first
were
festivals.
so lucky to have this festival. It was so like just the setting, it was in a beautiful space, and the maestros that came.
This the like the instructor staff and the orchestras
Oh
were
my gosh, it was like top notch. And then I think Solo Tango was
yes, I
there,
remember them.
getting to
Yeah,
dance to that live music.
getting to listen to Alberto Podesta
Oh, that was before my
live
time.
in person before he passed away.
Oh,
Seeing Olga Vaseo dancing with her daughter Ariana
yes.
Navera.
Oh my
I
gosh.
mean,
Yeah, yeah. We just,
Oliver Coker in his skit, you know.
yes.
Oof.
That
Yeah.
was world class. It was world class. And I think that we're like, it's so sad that it doesn't happen
Yeah.
now. And I remember feeling at the end of it the first time, like I leveled up, if that
Yes,
makes sense. It was like I got through it. I did a full pass. I took every class. I went to every practica that I wasn't in class. I went to every milonga and I stayed till the very end. And I just felt at the end of it, like it gave you the opportunity to have so many miles under your feet if you were actually doing the work and taking the classes and the followers technique classes, right? Like that I was like, oh, I can tell. I already have more experience now. I can dance at a different level than I was dancing before. And that we don't have it now is really sad. Maybe someday there will be a DC festival scene again. Maybe. Hopefully. Someday.
Wink, wink.
John, though, what was your first festival? I don't know this.
Oh, I never told you this.
No.
My first festival was Yale Tango Fest.
Oh,
So this was back in 2007. I had been dancing probably 3, 4 months at this point, and took a full schedule of classes and I went to all the things. It was very accessible. I was a student, and they had student pricing. I was really happy for that. And I was really glad I took all the classes. I remember the Baleo class that I took still, and it was like Baleos were super like in the fashion back
Yeah.
then, and I was super happy that I learned it. I was throwing Baleos left and right. Um, but the milongas, that was the first time I was introduced to sort of more like big city tango, I would say. So I started in small town tango. I went. There was a lot of representation from like New York City,
That would
and
make sense.
I was introduced to the tango uniform
Ah, yeah.
matching belts and shoes.
what's that?
Matching belts and shoes.
The big baggy pants.
Big baggy pants, belt and shoes. I
White belt, white shoes.
we had
Yes.
we had I mean, I didn't know anybody, so we would give people nicknames. And I remember one lady we called One-Sided Girl because it was like we thought she was like the coolest person.
John.
We thought she was super cool. Her hair was braided, but it was on one side.
Oh.
She had like an earring just on one
Okay.
side.
Oh,
And
okay.
so
Okay.
like she had like a bracelet on one side, and
Got
it was like, oh, she's so cool, and she was like really good at dancing. Like that's like, oh, the bar is way higher than I expected, and so that was really intimidating. Um, so the milongas were difficult. Classes were great, but really glad I went.
Yeah.
But the best part was actually coming back from the festival, coming back to my small town and dancing at our small town milonga and feeling it's like, oh, I'm home and feeling really
Aw.
comfortable
Aw.
and enjoying that sort of
Like I'm
dichotomy.
back in the safety of
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
home.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, so I think we've covered a bit of the scope that you would expect at a festival. Then maybe after we can touch on the marathons, but we have the classes, right? And at a typical festival, you're gonna have 2, 3, 4 different tracks of classes at the
Yes.
same time,
Yes.
running all day.
Yep.
You have the milongas, right? For sure, the grand milongas at nights with the big performances.
Yes.
But also in the afternoon now, there's
practica.
there's practicas, there's maybe even a milonga in the afternoon.
Mhm.
And then of course there's the after parties.
Oh, the after parties. We're
and
not
then-
going to share those stories.
I definitely shouldn't say anything. And then there's I plead the fifth. And then there's also like the other things, right? Like I was just at a festival last year and there was a movie film showing,
Oh, that's right. Some
right?
screenings.
Yes,
Yeah.
a screening. By the way, beautiful, beautiful movie. We'll put the name and link in the description if you want to check it out. But yeah, so like festivals, contrary to their names, feel like a marathon in the sense that
Yes.
it's quite fast paced.
Mm-hmm.
You're on your feet all day. You're around a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people all the time.
And the
Um,
dinners and the lunches.
and the
There's a big
dinners and the
social
lunches.
aspect if you're open
Yeah,
to it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, do you take lunches before the classes, the dinners in
Yeah,
between the
yeah.
milongas?
Before like
Like,
usually a
right,
lighter thing with
right,
with a
right,
smaller group.
right.
And then
A
I feel
bigger
like we would
dinner,
always have a
right.
really like all these poor restaurants have a really, really
And
big
people
group.
show up at one
Yes.
time, they're like,
Yeah. Yes. Oh, and the shopping.
And oh, of course, you have the vendors. You have all of
Yes.
the clothes and the shoes
Yes.
and anything else in
And
between.
sometimes there are people giving massages
Yes.
and some
Yeah.
yoga. Yeah, and I would set up a photo booth sometimes
Mhm.
and do like a quick
Yeah.
2-minute portrait. That was a lot of fun. I want to do it again at some
Yeah.
point because
Yeah.
I found a lot of artistic fulfillment
Mm.
doing these. Yeah.
You come out to LA.
I mean, I would love to,
Trying
but
to settle the gig here.
the
Uh,
equipment,
I knew that way.
yeah.
So let's take this from two perspectives. One from the perspective of I'm newer to tango, or maybe I'm going to my first festival, and then we can take it from the perspective of now that we're more experienced. What should a new person to tango or new to a first or entering the first festival, how should they come prepared? Like what should you bring with you? What kind of mindset should you have? How do you recover after?
Okay, so I think come well rested. That's
Rest
really
before the festival.
rest before the
Okay.
festival. Have you want to have a couple of pairs of shoes or the budget to buy. Like you want practice shoes. You need to have some kind of flat or low heel shoe
Mhm.
because unless you're a super person, like you can't dance that entire weekend in heels. It's
Right.
not like you're
Right.
going to destroy your feet. I think that's really important is be prepared. Also, maybe like some blister bandages just in case, because you don't want your whole weekend ruined
Yes.
because you can't dance,
Right.
right? I think I'm enjoying this liquid IV, like maybe some electrolytes.
Yes.
Like,
Bring your own water bottle.
yes,
Who knows? You can
absolutely.
find water from places, but sometimes there's not enough cups. Sometimes you put your cup down, someone else puts their cup down, you get confused.
Yeah. Yeah. Water bottle that's like personalized. So, you know, it's yours.
That's true too.
Yeah, and I think like comfortable clothing for the classes. Like the
Mhm.
class is not where you're going to go in your full Malanga attire.
No.
So something that you can move in and maybe even layers. Sometimes the ballrooms if it's in a hotel are kind of cold,
Right.
right? So layers are important
Layers.
that you can take off as you get warmer.
Yes.
And then if you have met people that want to learn as well, then like a partner is good. But I think also if you're going in solo, which my festivals I went in solo,
Yeah.
like be ready to switch and be open to switching and like dancing with multiple people because I think you get more out of a class that way.
Yeah. And you also
Yeah.
will make some friends in time for the milonga.
Exactly. Yes.
If I could add to that real quickly, and
Yeah.
I'd love to your take as well, John.
Yeah.
I think there's also when we talk about shoes and wearing flatter shoes, both for leaders and for followers,
Yeah.
make sure you can pivot very well.
Yes.
Bring shoes that are great for slippery floors and for stickier floors.
Mhm.
Always have that two combination, whether it's something you modify about your shoe, you put on a shoe sock, or you just have different soles and you're ready. Make sure you can pivot really easily because if not, you will destroy your knees and then time to dance in the milonga, you're dead. Be very when you like select your classes, be intentional about the classes, right? Yes, you want to take as much as you can, but be mindful of like after 2 to 3 classes, you've probably consumed as much information as you can for that day. Pause, go take a refresher so you can still have energy for the night.
Yeah. Oh, I was a full pass every class. I was like I'm gonna get a little bit of sleep and I'm just gonna plow
Go
through
through it
and get
all.
as much as I
Yeah.
can. And if it meant that like, okay, maybe in the third class, I'm still taking it, but I'm gonna give my body
Yeah.
the ability to rest. If I really need to sit down for a few minutes, I'll sit down for and
Mhm.
like I didn't expect I could do 100% in the
Yeah.
last class of the day, right?
That reminds me, maybe then bring a notebook also. A notebook and
Yes.
or be prepared to take notes on your phone.
Yeah.
Um,
And be open to the seminars. I think the
yes.
seminars are the things that are not as well attended, depending on the festival, obviously, but I think like I've gotten so much out of the seminars and just hearing people that have spent their lives advancing tango, like listening to them and their viewpoint has been really amazing.
So basically, no matter your style, your preference, you walk into that class ready to hear and fully hear and accept what you're being told. Of course,
Yes.
have questions so you can make sure you understand, because then you can
Mhm.
leave that class knowing this is what they taught. I like it. I'm going to do it. Or I'm not bought in. Maybe I don't
Mhm.
do it. But you have to be there. You
Yeah.
have to be present. And even your body language is so important in classes.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
I've been like, like be mindful of crossing your arms while you're
Mhm.
listening to the teacher. Be mindful of sitting and squatting while they're talking.
Mm.
If you need to sit, maybe grab a chair or something because they're standing the whole time and it can sometimes seem a
Mm.
bit disrespectful when you're just like, like arms crossed. So now I don't. I think
Yeah.
there was this one class that I took and the teachers were like, no arms crossed, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So be engaged in the class, be ready to switch partners.
Mhm.
Be nice to folks because you might meet some people that later on in the nights will be nice to dance with.
Yeah, I mean, I went to a festival in San Francisco and I took classes and I rotated around and that was how I met friends that I'm still friends with today, was in those classes,
Nice.
right? So I think that's a great way to do it, especially when you're solo and even if you're not solo, like be open to switching,
Yeah.
It's a much better experience
Yeah.
meeting people. Take some extra money too.
Yes. But here's a caveat. If you buy new shoes, the
Mhm.
festival might not be the best place
Right.
to wear them.
Yes.
Or at least if you're going to wear them for a little bit and then change because that's not the place to be breaking in your shoes for for leaders and followers. You're not trying to
Mhm.
hurt your feet because you've got a lot of classes still to take.
Yes.
So just being mindful of that.
Yes, but it is a great time to be able to try on shoes
Yes.
and to find new outfits, because like ordering online is fine, but you don't really know if something is going to be the right fit for the shape of
Right.
your foot
Right.
and I know even for John, like the men's shoes, it's hard to find
Mm-hmm.
the shoe that fits you really well. So some excess budget, if you have it, some excess money, that's a great time to save up for it. Yeah. What about you, John? What's essential? What's your must take to the festival?
I think you guys covered a lot of it. The other thing, as far as accommodations goes, if the event is not in a hotel and they don't have like a block of rooms available for you, try the best you can to get something super close to the venue.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pain if you have to travel a ways, and if at all possible, find roommates. It's a great way
Yeah.
to meet people and get a little bit of socializing sort of outside of
Yeah.
the classes and Malanga itself.
Yeah. I think some of my favorite experiences are when we like got an Airbnb house so
Mm-hmm.
that we had like it's this sweet time that you don't get with people like
Mm-hmm.
in the morning over coffee or like late at night as you're unwinding. It's like
And you can do the
really
debrief gossip,
yes,
right? The
yes.
the must have debrief gossip session
Yes.
after every milonga.
Yeah, we have a couple of friends in different circles that have shared this sentiment that like we should have adult sleepovers. And this is like not a sexual thing, obviously. This is like actually just like
Yeah.
you lose that when you
Yeah.
come out of like childhood and teenage. And I think it's one of
You
the
get that at
sweetest parts.
Tango.
Yeah, it's one
Yeah.
of the sweetest
Yeah.
parts of it.
So one of the first times I heard about you, Melody, it was actually we were hanging out at a house in between Malongas, and it was just they were talking about tango photography, and you naturally came up, and we were looking at pictures you've taken. So that was definitely really enjoyed that
Nice.
time.
Sweet
Yeah,
moments.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's also I think especially as you become more experienced at dancing, like I think it's okay to approach the festival from a mindset of pick your own adventure,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So that you can pull out really what you need. Attend certain festivals because of certain teachers you don't have access to on a regular basis.
Hmm.
Um, and especially like for me, I know people think I'm so extroverted. I need my downtime. And so
Yeah.
I plan my
Yeah.
downtimes. And there will be one day I do not do group dinner because I just need to go sit in a
Yeah.
corner, read a book, be on my phone, not have to open my
Hmm.
mouth or look at anybody. Maybe there's, you can find that time where there's in between classes. maybe it's a dinner that you don't attend as a group. Maybe you leave the milonga a little early or you go a little bit later. Sometimes I love getting ready. Sometimes I like to arrive on my own to the milonga. Or
Yeah.
maybe I want to stay a little bit later and everybody else wants to leave. So also
Mhm.
be mindful of like try to find someone that will want to do things with you sometimes at the same time so you can have someone to go back and forth with. But be mindful that you're just there for a couple of days. You're gonna have to make some concessions. You're with a group, maybe if you're alone, you definitely don't have to. But if you're with a
Yeah.
group, you just kind of have to make do with the vibe of the group
Yes.
and
Yeah.
then be on your way after
Yeah.
that, you know?
Yeah. It's good to have a group that you know you travel well together with. But I just try to say, like, I release expectations. For me, if I have expectations like, oh, we're gonna have these dinners and I'm gonna
Mm,
get these, then it's like a recipe to have a bad experience if those expectations are not met.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah.
So we touched on the tango festivals. What about the tango marathons? What was some of your
Oh,
first experiences of a marathon?
Marathon Z was my first marathon.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So there was like a 10-minute period that the registration was open for the last
About to say.
yeah, the last 10 spots or whatever that were not invited. And I happened to get in one of those spaces. Um, what was really awesome, it was an incredible experience. The whole marathon, like the whole time is just one of those like best experiences in my entire tango life. But what was really, really cool was that Ramu opened up table reservations. So he was like, you can reserve a table. Whoever gets to me with their group, you had to have like 6 people and the name of the orchestra. So the table reservations of orchestra. And so
I remember
immediately
that.
Sasha and I were like, we're Biaggi, right? And we got our 6 people and we reserved our table. And so we were with that group the whole time. And like, some flux as people move
Yeah.
around. It was just such a wonderful experience. And I remember, I think I wore my shoes to the ground. Like I danced as much as my feet could take that. And we had dinners out. And even after like dancing till 5 in the morning, there was still like, hey, do you guys want to hang out for an hour afterwards? Like there were still those moments. And it was just like, yeah,
Yeah.
it was a great kickoff to like learn what a marathon was,
Yeah.
right? And then the bug was there, like I had to go to more.
Yeah.
What about you?
I don't know what my first marathon was, but my some of my early ones were definitely Pasional in
Mm,
Chicago.
yeah, yeah. That was a beautiful
That
one.
was so beautiful.
The
And to be,
beach. Yeah.
like to be in Chicago, it's like you have the city and you have the beach, if you can call it a
Yeah.
beach. But to have that just juxtaposition
Yes.
and the vibe was just really cool, really great
Yeah.
people, great floor. And I think part of those early experiences were it's like it's that those were the moments where I really started to like solidify friendships because again you're sleeping in the same spaces. It's a little
Mhm.
bit different from a festival because you know that you have more time to dance,
Mm,
so you're not trying to like maybe in the beginning you're trying to hit every single all the afternoons, all the evenings, and then all the
yeah.
after dances and parties. But I know if I go to a marathon, there's probably only a certain amount of people that I can have real, authentic interactions with.
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
Otherwise, like
It's
you can't
not
get to the
50
whole room,
people, right?
right?
Yeah,
There's like
yeah.
100 people there, but maybe I own. And now that's what I do. I prioritize. I'm like, hey,
Mhm.
this marathon, I haven't seen XYZ people in a while. I think I'll focus my effort hanging out with them
Mhm.
because you start to know people, and you can hang out with everybody, but it's
Mhm.
like impossible,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah.
then you don't get as much time with everybody.
Yeah, yeah.
I'd rather just narrow in on a couple of relationships I'm gonna like just reconnect with for that
Mm,
weekend and just focus on staying together, eating together,
mm.
and then seeing people throughout the
Yeah,
marathon. Um, but yes, I just recall in the beginning, I just felt like I needed to be there
yeah.
and dance all the time. There's actually only real one true marathon I've ever been to, meaning there was music playing 24 hours a day.
Oh, I've never
Yes.
been to one like
That
that.
was it was like I think they did it once, maybe twice, maybe once. It was a lot of work. Not your average tango marathon in Montreal.
Oh, wow.
And they had DJs all around the clock. And sometimes it was
Wow.
completely empty,
Yeah.
but people would come at all times of the day, in and out. People would take naps.
Wow.
It was, and
I
then
guess like if you so like you need stamina to stay up really late if you want to make the most of a marathon, but if you have a marathon like that, then maybe you can go to sleep early and get up early,
exactly because they'll
right?
always be
That's
dancing. You just have to coordinate
interesting.
with, oh, are
Yeah,
they gonna
you would have
dance
to
at this
make
time?
sure
Okay,
they're
cool.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
the early birds could show
yeah,
up Like, honestly, you could have like more attendees theoretically
Right.
because you could have
Just
your
on a
early
different time.
birds and your night owls.
Yeah.
That's cool. I
Yeah.
like that.
What about
Yeah.
you, John? Your first marathon experiences?
I didn't travel to events a whole heck of a lot when marathons started becoming much more popular. So I
Mhm.
went to a whole bunch of festivals when I first started dancing, but there was a period there where I really just didn't travel. I wasn't like in that headspace. I didn't, uh, it just wasn't something that's on my radar.
Yeah. Well, and at that time we had a baby as well. So I think life was a little bit different. It's different when you have a very young baby and Charm City in particular. No, Charm City might have been that his parents had Anya and my kids were with their dad, but one of them we actually brought an au pair and the kids like would go out and do
Wow.
stuff. That was an element, I think.
I admire parents that come with their
Yeah.
kids and they manage to make it work.
Yeah, like mostly when I was doing, I could only go to marathons or festivals every other weekend if it fell on that when I didn't have my older kids, right before Anya was in this world. But I did a Passional,
Right.
Portland Tango Marathon. That one was really nice. And I will
Yes.
say there was an
Yes.
experience though. Ramu says, "Hey guys, let's go hiking." Between milongas, and we're like, cool, okay, so we're thinking this is going to be like a leisurely, like,
This is
a
Ramu. No,
little,
you're not
no,
doing
no, no.
leisure.
So if you don't know Ramu, he has long legs and a long stride,
And a
okay,
lot of
and he's
endurance.
like, he was booking it up this mountain to go to these waterfalls, and I think it was Sohaila and Simone and me, and we were like, we didn't we didn't know we are gonna be hanging on for dear life, like jetting up the mountainside between Milongos. And I was like, okay, all right, so next time we know.
But
Next
you
time we
know
know.
what though? That's a great point because sometimes these festivals and marathons are in really great locations,
Yeah.
right? And you go to the location, you try to also get to see the city, and it's like balancing the two things. Something has to give.
Yeah. Yes.
And
Yeah.
I think for either of them, also coming with that mindset, if that's a city you want to explore,
Mm-hmm.
look in advance to see what you might want to do and plan your time
Yeah.
accordingly so that you know you'll still have enough dancing time, you'll have enough city side sightseeing time, and then you'll have enough rest and you downtime.
Yeah.
So again, it's like a pick your own adventure.
Yeah.
It's meant to feel overwhelming so that there's a little bit of something for everyone.
Yes.
So you don't have to
Yeah.
do it all.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And or like if you can tack on a day or two, maybe to the
Hopefully.
front
Yeah.
end, not the
Yes.
back end when
Yes.
you're exhausted.
Yeah.
I do think that there's a period of time you need to go home for me and just like recover,
Yeah.
right? And that's when you're like sleeping. So when we sleep is actually when we cement the new things that we
Mhm.
learned. So you need a period of time for your brain to actually rest, right? So you don't get that
You
in.
didn't learn anything. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Unless you're
But
like,
what about after, right? When you're
yeah,
done for the weekend, like
yeah.
be very intentional about how you spend those next couple
Hmm.
of days. Some people are crazy enough to come back home and go straight to the next milonga.
Hmm.
For me, I'm like offline for a couple of days. I don't even want to go on Facebook. I don't want to
Yeah.
hear anything. I just need like to separate from being social for a couple of days.
Mm.
And then hopefully by then the photos are out and then I can go sift through and remember.
Okay, so that was where
Then that's when you would be
all
the
of my
one working.
experiences is that I was then like trying to finish up all the photos that I was, because like there was always this tango piece. A lot of it I attended as a photographer, and so if it was a marathon, then I was just capturing everybody dancing, and often I was editing them as I was at the event as well because I was like really just so excited by it that I was like I have to do it. And if it was that I got to build my photo booth and play and have people come in, then it was the same thing. I was just really
Hmm.
super, super excited about like finishing these. So one or two more days later, then I would rest. But still, like if you're learning, if it's a festival and you have all this new
Yeah.
knowledge that you wanted to get in, for me, it was like, oh, I have to get out there and use it, or I'm not gonna.
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna not as a follow, but as a leader.
Mm.
And like if we go and we like learn all the moves, and then do we ever use our moves?
So that's a good point you bring up. I think that's why the note taking comes in
Hmm.
handy because there might be sometimes information needs to sink in a little bit more before it can become applicable.
Hmm.
If you bring everything that you were learning from that day into your dancing, you're going to be off more than likely,
Yeah.
which means you're not going to have good dances, you're not going to have a good time. So
Hmm.
unless it's something where I've created my mantra and I have a mantra that I'm like, I have a certain thing that I do mentally if I want to keep practicing something over time. But typically, I try to just hear, unless it's something I can implement very easily, then I'll
Mm-hmm.
do it throughout the weekend.
Yeah,
If not,
yeah,
I write my notes, I took my videos, I put it to the side, then I just go enjoy the evening.
yeah.
And then afterwards, I go back, I review my notes, and okay, the next couple of weeks is what I'm working on.
Yeah.
If you bring it into you're gonna feel funky
No,
too
I
in
don't
your own
bring it
body.
into milongas. Like for me, then I try to prioritize practica
Mm.
spaces afterwards because I don't want to be practicing and creating like awkward scenarios on the dance
Right.
floor. Like as a leader, as a follower, I think that is much easier to take. Like, oh, I learned that I need to bring these
Mhm.
pieces down. Like and that gives you immediate benefits to your
Right.
dancing. But I think as a leader, it's a very different story.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, John?
So sometimes I try, but like you said, if it becomes too heady and you're thinking about the moves too much, it really affects your dance. Uh, and working on it and giving a little bit time for you to absorb, so you can sort of play around with it in your head and it makes sense. Then that works. But yeah, no, in a festival, l- doing anything that you just learned usually is a bad idea out of Malanga. That only leads to
Yeah.
disappointment on the dance floor,
For
for
you and your
you
partner.
and
Yes.
for everybody involved.
Yes.
Probably also the people around you, because it's just
The teacher
Yeah.
watching and be like,
Yeah.
that's not what I taught.
yeah,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
There's also something that you mentioned about teachers, right? Like you form relationships with the teachers in the classes, but be mindful the nighttime, they're in performance mode. They need their own
They've been
downtime.
teaching all
They've been teaching
day.
all day. Like give teachers some
Yeah.
space, some breathing room. If there's an opportunity where they come around you, great. But try not to hover around the teachers. Don't even
Yeah.
look in their direction. Like if they want to dance, they know the game. They'll find a
Yeah.
way to, to work with you. But try not to hover.
I can only imagine how overwhelming it must
Yeah.
feel that like there is so much focus and attention
Mm-hmm.
on you and that people want from you.
Right.
That to me I think probably feels like a lot. So I in a Malanga at a festival, I am like, I'll enjoy their performance. I adore their performance, but like they don't exist the rest of the night,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
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 Especially at a festival, I really dislike, because they're always sitting together in one corner,
Yeah.
and I hate that when people dance across that
Oh,
corner. There's that like tension that you get, that like, oh, I need
I
to
gotta
I
show
mean,
off in
I
front of the
can't I
I'd
teachers.
rather
can't
I can't be horrible.
yeah, I can't be
Fast
horrible.
Yeah.
though.
And
It
Yeah.
happens.
but I remember one time at Element, I was dancing, and it just turned out that I was dancing in between. I was dancing. It was Oliver Kolker behind me, and then in front of me, I think it was either Chicho or it was like Gaston and Moira or something in
You
front of
were
me.
stuck between. Oh Jesus!
And I was like, "This is I can't. This is so
Just stand in
bad.
place.
Like can I please get off the floor?
Breathe.
Can someone swap out with me?" Yeah, it was rough.
Oh, so sad. But to that point, sometimes the teaching crew, they are friends also.
Yeah.
And that's their time to hang out with each other because now they're off to another country after this event. So they
Mm-hmm.
may just, and sometimes people are like, oh, they're so the teacher's corner. It's like, no, they're what's the word? They're when you have to come down.
Oh, they're
They're thank
decompressing.
you. Whew.
Yeah.
They're decompressing. They're
Yeah.
socializing
This is their
themselves.
downtime.
This is their yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So we should honor that for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also too, there's people that they know that they're very good friends with. Those people might be around them.
Yeah.
But like I wouldn't take it personal that, oh, look at that person now dancing with the teachers. Like, no, maybe they have a close relationship with that
Yeah.
person. Teachers are people too.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Can I just touch on a few quick tiny tidbits?
Yeah.
I think there are other things like very practical things like bringing, very good deodorant,
Yes.
bringing
Mouthwash.
safety pins, extra bobby pins, mouthwash, and gum. These are
Mm-hmm.
for just bringing with you when you travel
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
festivals or
Stuff to put your hair up.
things to put your hair up. Think about how you're
Fans.
gonna dress when you go to sleep because you might be sleeping with other
Well,
people.
like
Maybe
band-aids and athletic tape.
band-aids, tape, the tape for the followers. Because sometimes you even make friends when you have that extra thing
Yes.
that someone needs.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm a bit embarrassed, but the people who sleep with me know I have to bring my mouth guard because it
Yeah.
helps me with my snoring.
Uh,
Because I
me and
know
mouth tape.
whatever it is that
Mhm.
I've actively worked on different solutions to figure out how do I minimize my snoring when I'm sleeping with other people, because now people are like, I'm not sleeping in the same room with you, Amanda. I'll wake up sometimes, my husband's in a different room. It's so bad. I don't know what's happened to me. But I make sure I bring that, and it's very uncomfortable for me, but I do it for the people around me.
Mm.
So it's, maybe it's your own pillow, your lucky blanket,
Yeah.
sock, whatever
Yeah.
it is that you need to feel comfortable and prepared.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I agree with all of that. And then your coffee. Bring your coffee.
Bring your own coffee?
Well, you know
Oh,
what? When
dang. What is
where
that
were
rule?
we were at a marathon or a festival, and we stayed with Marco, and he brought his big thing of cold brew. He was like, "This is gonna get me through the whole weekend," and I was like, "That is
Okay.
brilliant.
Okay.
Bring
I would just
bring
get
your
the New York
coffee."
cafe, but
Oh, I'm a coffee snob. John makes good coffee, so
yeah.
yeah,
But like a good cafe.
a good
Like not like
sure,
a chain
sure.
cafe.
I'm also cheap,
Because you meet people
except
in the
for
cafe. Oh,
shoes.
okay, that's a good point.
Yeah. But also like that it depends. Like a Starbucks I know is gonna have a nicely
Yeah.
caffeinated coffee, although the quality whatever, the taste meh. But if I don't know that there's gonna be a good coffee
Yeah.
shop that's gonna have the level of caffeine that I need in the morning, yeah, much more likely it's John's cold brew. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Well, I think that wraps it up for
Yeah.
festivals and
Yeah.
marathons and workshops. We could say about the same
Yeah.
for traveling for a
Yeah.
workshop.
Okay. I'm sure there'll be plenty more for us to touch on in the future on
Yes.
what we love about marathons, what we wish we could get more of or less
Yes.
of at
Yeah.
these events and festivals. Oh, you know what could be a great topic?
What?
There's some conversation about, there's some feelings about whether or not marathons hurt or
Oh, that's a topic.
or hurt the dancing community.
Yeah, that is a yeah.
And the impact, the unintentional impacts of the marathon culture.
Mm,
Yeah.
that's a whole episode.
Yes.
Yeah.
Feel free to send us messages now in advance so we can prepare accordingly and be
Yes.
ready to talk on this.
Yes. And I would love to hear from both newer dancers and also people that have been around a
Right.
while and have seen the shift in the tango landscape,
Right.
if you will.
Yes.
Yeah,
Encuentros as well. We didn't even touch on that.
absolutely.
And everything in between.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. Well, we'll catch you on the next one. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Staying Grounded. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and spread the word. We'll catch you next time.